2026 all-new Kawasaki Vulcan S, the cruiser that changes everything. Stop scrolling, because Kawasaki may have just given the cruiser world a serious wake-up call. The 2026 Kawasaki Vulcan S arrives with the kind of presence that makes you wonder why anyone would need a much larger cruiser. At first glance, it still carries the unmistakable Vulcan S identity, but look closer, and the story becomes far more interesting. Kawasaki has built a motorcycle around the idea that a cruiser should not simply look good parked outside a coffee shop. It should actually be exciting to ride. The Vulcan S has always been known for its unusual combination of cruiser styling, accessible ergonomics, and sporty road manners, and the 2026 model takes that formula into a new era. The design looks muscular without becoming unnecessarily bulky, while the low-slung silhouette gives it the classic cruiser attitude riders expect. But this is where things get interesting. The real attraction may not be what Kawasaki changed on the outside. It may be what happens when you finally twist the throttle. The 2026 Vulcan S appears ready to challenge the idea that practical cruisers have to be boring, predictable, or slow. Kawasaki seems to be saying that you can have comfort, attitude, technology, and performance in the same package, and you don't need to spend a fortune to get it. If you thought the Vulcan S was already impressive, wait until you see why the 2026 version could become one of Kawasaki's most talked about motorcycles. The first thing that grabs your attention is the styling. Kawasaki understands that cruiser buyers want a motorcycle with personality, and the 2026 Vulcan S delivers that attitude immediately. The low profile, flowing bodywork, exposed mechanical character, and aggressive stance give the bike a visual identity that stands apart from traditional heavyweight cruisers. It doesn't try to copy every other motorcycle on the road, and that could be one of its biggest advantages. Instead of drowning the rider in chrome and unnecessary bulk, the Vulcan S follows a more modern interpretation of the cruiser formula. The result is a motorcycle that can look intimidating without being physically intimidating to ride. That distinction matters. Many riders love the appearance of a big cruiser, but don't necessarily want to wrestle with a massive motorcycle every time they leave the garage. The Vulcan S takes a different approach. Its proportions make it look substantial, while maintaining an approachable character. And for 2026, that character feels even more relevant in a motorcycle market, where riders increasingly want versatility. This is a bike that can attract attention at a weekend gathering, look perfectly natural parked outside a city cafe, and still make sense as an everyday machine. Kawasaki's designers haven't simply created another motorcycle, they have created something with attitude. And when you combine that styling with the reputation of the Vulcan name, you get a cruiser that could turn heads before the engine even starts. But let's talk about the part that really matters, the engine. The Vulcan S has always taken an unconventional approach by combining cruiser ergonomics with a liquid-cooled parallel twin power plant, giving it a personality that is noticeably different from many traditional V-twin cruisers. That decision has helped make the Vulcan S one of the more interesting motorcycles in its category. Instead of feeling like a heavy machine designed only for relaxed highway cruising, the motorcycle has a more energetic character that can make everyday roads genuinely entertaining. The 2026 model continues to represent that philosophy, giving riders an engine experience that feels usable rather than overwhelming. Twist the throttle and the motorcycle responds with the kind of smooth, accessible acceleration that makes city riding enjoyable while still providing enough character for open roads. And that is exactly where this Kawasaki becomes dangerous for its competition. A motorcycle doesn't need enormous displacement numbers to be exciting. What matters is how the engine works with the chassis, gearing, weight, and rider position. The Vulcan S has historically been strong in that area, and the 2026 machine continues to appeal to riders who want a cruiser that can actually be ridden aggressively when the road gets interesting. You can cruise, commute, explore backroads, and enjoy long stretches of highway without feeling like the motorcycle was designed for only one type of riding. Kawasaki's approach is simple but clever. Give riders cruiser style, but don't sacrifice the fun. Then, there is the feature that makes the Vulcan S particularly interesting for riders of different sizes: the riding position. Kawasaki's ERGO-FIT philosophy has long been one of the defining characteristics of this motorcycle, allowing the rider interface to be adjusted to create a more comfortable relationship between the seat, foot controls, and handlebars. This is a big deal because motorcycles are not one-size-fits-all machines. A rider who is comfortable for 30 minutes may become miserable after 2 hours if the ergonomics are wrong. The Vulcan S attacks that problem directly. Instead of forcing every rider into exactly the same position, Kawasaki's design philosophy focuses on making the motorcycle adaptable. For 2026, that remains one of the strongest reasons to consider the Vulcan S. Whether you're a newer rider searching for confidence, or an experienced rider looking for a comfortable machine that doesn't feel like a giant touring bike, the Vulcan S has a compelling argument. The low seat height also contributes to that approachable feeling, making stopping and maneuvering much less intimidating for many riders. But don't mistake accessibility for weakness. This is not a toy motorcycle. The combination of a low-slung cruiser profile and responsive handling gives the Vulcan S a personality that can surprise people who assume a low seat automatically means a boring ride. It is precisely this mixture of accessibility and attitude that makes the bike so interesting, and potentially one of the smartest cruiser choices in Kawasaki's lineup. Now imagine taking that motorcycle onto a winding road. This is where the Vulcan S can completely change your expectations. Traditional cruisers are often associated with relaxed steering, long wheelbases, and a riding style that prioritizes comfort above everything else. The Vulcan S plays a different game. Its chassis was engineered around a balance between cruiser confidence and Kawasaki's sporting DNA, giving riders a machine that can feel surprisingly willing when the road starts bending. That makes the 2026 Vulcan S especially appealing to someone who doesn't want to choose between a cruiser and a standard motorcycle. You can have the low-slung appearance and relaxed rider triangle while still enjoying a motorcycle that responds when you ask it to change direction. This is the kind of characteristic that may not be obvious from a showroom photograph. A motorcycle can look impressive in a parking lot, but the real test begins when the road becomes unpredictable. Corner after corner, braking into a turn, accelerating out of it, adjusting your line. This is where the engineering underneath the styling starts to matter. And Kawasaki has always had a reputation for building motorcycles that can deliver an engaging ride. The Vulcan S may look like a classic cruiser from a distance, but once you're riding it, the personality becomes much more modern. That's why calling it simply a cruiser doesn't really tell the whole story. It is better described as a cruiser-inspired motorcycle with a surprisingly energetic heart. Technology is another area where modern motorcycles have changed dramatically, and the 2026 Vulcan S exists in a world where riders expect more than an engine, 2 wheels, and a fuel tank. Modern Kawasaki motorcycles increasingly focus on giving riders useful information without overwhelming them with unnecessary complexity. Depending on market specification and equipment, the latest generation motorcycle experience can include modern instrumentation, rider-focused controls, and electronic features designed to make everyday riding easier. But the important thing is balance. Nobody buys a Vulcan S because they want a motorcycle that feels like a computer with handlebars. They buy it because they want the experience of riding. Kawasaki's challenge is therefore to add convenience while preserving the mechanical personality that makes a motorcycle special. The 2026 Vulcan S fits perfectly into that philosophy. You still get the sensation of an engine responding to your input, the feeling of the chassis moving underneath you, and the unmistakable freedom that comes from riding a motorcycle. Technology should support that experience, not replace it. And that's why the Vulcan S remains so appealing. It feels modern without abandoning the fundamental reason people fall in love with motorcycles in the first place. You sit down, start the engine, pull away, and suddenly the ordinary commute can become an adventure. That emotional connection is difficult to measure on a specification sheet, but it is one of the biggest reasons motorcycles like the Vulcan S continue to attract riders. There is also something extremely important about the value proposition. The 2026 Kawasaki Vulcan S enters a motorcycle market where prices continue to influence buying decisions, and that makes a versatile cruiser even more attractive. Think about what you're getting. You have the styling of a dedicated cruiser, the accessible ergonomics of a motorcycle designed with different riders in mind, the performance character of a Kawasaki twin-cylinder engine, and the ability to use the bike for far more than weekend posing. That combination can make the Vulcan S an extremely logical choice. It can serve as a first major motorcycle for someone stepping up from a smaller machine, but it can also appeal to experienced riders who simply want something enjoyable without the weight and complexity of a heavyweight cruiser. And that versatility is where the Vulcan S becomes difficult to categorize. It isn't trying to beat every motorcycle at one specific task. Instead, it aims to be good at almost everything a real-world rider might ask from it. Commuting? Absolutely. Weekend rides? Of course. Highway cruising? That's part of the package. Backroad exploration? This is where the motorcycle can surprise you. Even simple errands become more enjoyable when the machine beneath you has genuine personality. The 2026 Vulcan S, therefore, isn't just about horsepower or appearance. It is about getting more motorcycle for every ride, and that could be one of the biggest reasons this machine continues to attract attention. But here's the question everyone wants answered. Is the 2026 Vulcan S actually worth getting excited about? The answer depends on what you expect from a motorcycle. If you want an enormous engine, massive dimensions, and the heavyweight feel of a traditional American-style cruiser, there are other motorcycles built specifically for that purpose. But if you want something more approachable, more agile, and potentially easier to live with every day, the Vulcan S becomes extremely difficult to ignore. Its biggest advantage is that it doesn't force you into the traditional cruiser stereotype. You don't need to be an experienced rider with years of muscle memory to appreciate it. You don't need to spend every weekend riding hundreds of kilometers. And you don't have to choose between looking cool and having a motorcycle that is practical. The Vulcan S tries to deliver both. That's why the bike can appeal to such a wide range of riders. Its personality can change depending on the person sitting on it. For one rider, it could be the perfect introduction to the cruiser world. For another, it could be the motorcycle they keep in the garage because it is simply too fun to ignore. And for experienced riders, it can become the machine they choose when they want to leave the complicated stuff behind and just enjoy the road. That versatility may be the secret weapon of the Vulcan S. And now we reach the most interesting part, the competition. The middleweight cruiser category is becoming increasingly important because riders are discovering that bigger doesn't automatically mean better. A lighter motorcycle can be easier to control, easier to maintain, easier to park, and more enjoyable on real-world roads. The 2026 Kawasaki Vulcan S sits directly in that sweet spot. It offers enough visual presence to make people turn around, but it doesn't demand the physical commitment of a huge cruiser. It offers enough performance to make acceleration entertaining, but it doesn't need ridiculous power figures to deliver excitement. And perhaps most importantly, it gives riders a motorcycle that can grow with them. That's something many buyers overlook. A good motorcycle isn't necessarily the one with the biggest engine or the longest list of specifications. Sometimes the best motorcycle is the one you actually want to ride tomorrow morning. The Vulcan S has that potential. It can be comfortable when you want comfort, exciting when you want excitement, and practical when real life gets in the way of your weekend plans. That is a difficult combination to achieve. Kawasaki has essentially created a motorcycle that refuses to stay inside one category. And if the 2026 model continues that philosophy, competitors may have a serious problem on their hands. So is the 2026 Kawasaki Vulcan S the cruiser you should be watching? After everything we've seen, there is a very strong argument that it deserves your attention. It combines a distinctive design, an approachable riding position, a lively twin-cylinder character, practical everyday usability, and the kind of road manners that can make a simple ride feel special. But perhaps the most exciting thing about this motorcycle is that it doesn't try too hard to prove anything. It doesn't need to be the biggest cruiser in the parking lot. It doesn't need the most intimidating engine. It simply needs to make you want to ride, and that's exactly what the Vulcan S has been designed to do. The 2026 model represents the continuation of a formula that has made this Kawasaki such an interesting alternative in the cruiser market. If you're looking for a motorcycle that looks aggressive without being overwhelming, feels comfortable without becoming boring, and delivers enough performance to keep you smiling every time the road opens up, this could be the machine you've been waiting for. So here's the real question. Would you choose the 2026 Kawasaki Vulcan S over a traditional heavyweight cruiser? Let us know in the comments, because this battle is getting interesting. And if you want to see more videos covering the newest motorcycles, future models, prices, features, and the machines that could completely change the motorcycle market, make sure you subscribe, because the next Kawasaki could be even more surprising.